Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Will Howard describes one trait that sets him apart. How often does a national championship-winning quarterback fall far in the draft? Usually, you'd think a title-winning quarterback would be a lock for the first round. But not new Pittsburgh Steelers QB Will Howard. Despite winning the national championship with Ohio State last year, Howard fell all the way to the 6th round. He was the 8th quarterback drafted, behind players like former Oregon QB Dillon Gabriel and former Syracuse and Ohio State QB Kyle McCord. Could waiting to the 6th round hurt Howard's confidence? Probably not. Because it's certainly not the first time Howard has dealt with trouble. Whether it was during his first 4 years playing at Kansas State or stumbles on the road to the title at Ohio State, Will Howard has practically seen it all. Something I like to hang my hat on is my ability to deal with adversity, said Howard on Tuesday's episode of Footballin' with Ben Roethlisberger. I think in my career, at K-State and then at Ohio State this past year, I've seen pretty much every situation that a quarterback can see. I started off as a backup. I got thrown in as a true freshman and didn't know what the hell I was doing. I got benched. I've been a third string. I've been a freaking starter, coming in and winning the championship. And then, having a guy come in and split time with you. I've seen almost every situation. Will Howard isn't a former 5-star recruit who played for a blue blood school his entire college career. He didn't even play 10 games in a season until his 4th year at Kansas State. But he overcame splitting time and inconsistent starts to win the title with Ohio State. But even Howard's time at Ohio State wasn't smooth sailing. Early in 2024, the Buckeyes traveled to Oregon to take on the Ducks in a matchup of undefeated, top 3 ranked teams. And Howard had the ball with time ticking down and the opportunity to beat a top-ranked team on the road. He had already thrown for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the Buckeyes were down 32-31 with seconds on the clock. Ohio State faced a 3rd and 20 from the Oregon 38 with 6 seconds left and 1 timeout remaining. Howard doesn't have the biggest arm, which is part of why he fell in the 2025 NFL Draft. But he can run the ball. In my head, I'm like, we need 15, I can't throw that, Howard said about taking a short check-down option. So I pump-faked it to him, and I'm like, alright, I'm gonna just take off and see what I can get and see how far I can get. I remember looking up and seeing it tick from 2 to 1, and I tried to get a little extra yard, and then I got down. But the game clock hit triple zeros, Oregon fans flooded the field at the Autzen Zoo, and Ohio State suffered its first loss of the season. Then, there was the matchup with Penn State at State College. Howard grew up a Nittany Lions fan, but Penn State never tried to recruit him. So that matchup was personal. But it started out as a disaster. On Howard's first pass attempt of the game, he threw an interception that Penn State returned for a touchdown. It was a horrid start for both Howard and the Buckeyes. Mistakes like the failed slide or a pick six on the first pass of a game could shatter a young quarterback's confidence. But Howard persisted. And he led the Buckeyes to a 20-13 win in hostile territory. Will Howard has one of the most essential traits for a football player at any position, but especially at the quarterback spot. He's resilient. I've thrown 3 picks in a game, Howard said. I've thrown 4 touchdowns, I've done everything, And I've learned a lot. I've learned how to deal with those tough times. I think that's what sets me apart, because I've seen it, I've done it, and I know how to respond. That's an incredible mentality for a young quarterback. To already be resilient and to have shown the ability to respond when things get bad is incredible. Will Howard isn't coming into Pittsburgh saddled with the expectations that fans and media alike shower a first-round quarterback with. But undoubtedly, he has high expectations for himself. He also has the mentality to weather the inevitable storms he'll face throughout training camp and the season, playing or not. After all, it won't be the first time Will Howard has been a backup or even a third stringer. He knows how to handle that. The question is whether he'll get the chance this year or next to prove he can climb from the third string to becoming a winning starter in Pittsburgh. Will Steelers move on from Jaylen Warren after 2025 season? The Steelers had about a $2 million decision to make on Jaylen Warren earlier this year, choosing the pricier option. But is that indicative of their long-term intentions? They opted to protect themselves against losing Warren with no compensation by tagging him at the second-round level. That cost about $2 million more than an original round restricted free agent tag, but presumably reflects some sentiment about him. What exactly is that sentiment, though, and what are its long-term implications? Recently, Steelers reporter Jerry Dulac said the Steelers don't plan to re-sign Jaylen Warren next year. Prior to reporting that, they did draft Caleb Johnson in the third round, but is this all a bit premature? If not, then what is the cause? Do the Steelers feel that Warren's running style isn't sufficiently compatible with their offensive preferences, especially compared to Johnson? The rookie back is a more ideal scheme fit for Arthur Smith in terms of his strengths as a runner. But teams employ more than one running back these days, so why would they move on from Warren? The Steelers have not re-signed a running back to a multi-year extension since Willie Parker, which was a while ago. Since then, they've cycled through Rashard Mendenhall, Jonathan Dwyer, Isaac Redman, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, and Najee Harris. Now, they tried to sign Bell to a long-term extension, but he declined, and regretted it. Jaylen Warren isn't likely to make top dollar as a free agent, so why make a decision now? Last year, the Steelers reportedly told James Daniels they were not bringing him back, from the man himself. Then they didn't when he hit free agency, despite his market not rising due to injury. In Warren's case, this is just the reporting of Jerry Dulac, who has gotten a thing or two incorrect over the course of his career. But he was right about Shedeur Sanders and the Steelers' view of the quarterbacks in this class. Since signing as an undrafted free agent in 2022, Jaylen Warren has 1,674 rushing yards for the Steelers. While he is averaging a healthy 4.8 yards per carry, he also only has 4 touchdowns. He also has close to 900 receiving yards, and is a complete player, able to block as well. The Steelers value a well-rounded skill set, so unless they expect him to price himself out of their market, this report is hard to accept without qualification. Insider believes Steelers could still trade Wr. The Pittsburgh Steelers have found themselves at the forefront of many conversations throughout the offseason. Whether it be due to the Aaron Rodgers conversation, talk of drafting quarterbacks, or their moves at receiver, there's a lot to talk about with this team. One of the biggest talking points is George Pickens, as many believe he could still be on the move. He didn't get traded ahead of or during the draft, which was a bit of a shock to some, but analyst James Palmer doesn't believe a trade is out of the question at this point in the offseason, especially since the team has some other contract decisions to consider soon. The arrows just don't point to a future in Pittsburgh, Palmer said on 93.7 The Fan, also noting that his opinion and take is educated based on his sources. Pickens might be the second best receiver on the team after newly acquired DK Metcalf, but he still doesn't seem satisfied to be a member of this team, especially with their quarterback situation in limbo. He could establish himself as a strong receiver in this league and make a legacy based on his overall talent level, but to this point, his attitude hasn't been what the team hoped for. Mike Tomlin is a no-nonsense coach, and if Pickens' antics continue, the team might be forced to make a decision on him sooner rather than later, moving on and either acquiring another receiver or getting draft picks to hopefully build for their future. Analyst predicts which QB will start for Steelers. And you fan? What do you think about George Pickens' situation? Write to us in the comments.